No way! We're actually doing this. Look at it, we're almost there. This is the best show ever.
Welcome, everyone. If you're the kind of person who loves getting to the very bottom of complex ideas using clear, structured facts, well, you are in the exact right place. Okay, let's dive into this. Today's explainer is going to objectively analyze our source material's scientific breakdown of what's probably the most famous conspiracy theory of the 20th century, the moon landing hoax. You know the one, the idea that Apollo 11 was literally just a high-budget production filmed out on a soundstage in the Nevada desert. It's been circulating for decades. But rather than getting caught up in all the rumors, we're going to look at a rigorous forensic audit. This was conducted by professional geologist Ramoncito Gozar, and he breaks down these skeptical claims using the completely unforgiving laws of vacuum mechanics and physics. To really set the stage here, Ramoncito Gozar himself puts it perfectly. He says, if you want a comfortable story, go buy a ticket to a movie. If you want the truth, let's audit the vacuum mechanics. I absolutely love this because it perfectly sets up that objective, highly analytical tone for the evidence we're about to unpack together. We aren't here to debate feelings, right? We're here to systematically audit the hard science of the environment.
So, here is our dossier for today. We're going to look at 1. The visual anomalies. 2. Linear perspective and shadows. 3. The radiation question. 4. The lunar module crater. And finally, 5. The smoking gun data.
Okay, let's jump right into section 1, the visual anomalies. This right here is kind of the ultimate skeptic's mystery. It's a question almost everyone has asked when watching that all Apollo footage. Why is the American flag seemingly waving in a vacuum? I mean, if there's no atmosphere on the moon, there is absolutely no wind. So doesn't a moving flag prove that this whole thing was filmed inside a drafty studio down on Earth? Well, let's look at the science to find out. To answer that question, our source grounds the entire argument in a really core scientific principle, and that's the law of inertia. This dictates that kinetic energy remains in an object until friction or some other outside force acts upon it. Now, it's a basic building block of physics, sure, but its application changes entirely depending on the actual environment you're standing in.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the direct comparison of those environments. See, on Earth, we have an atmosphere, and that atmosphere creates air drag. If you were to twist a flagpole into the ground here on Earth, the air immediately dampens the motion of the fabric. But in a vacuum, like up on the moon, there is literally no air drag. So when the astronaut twists that pole into the lunar soil, the kinetic energy from his touch transfers straight into the fabric of the flag. And because there's absolutely no air friction to stop it, the flag vibrates endlessly. According to Gozar's analysis, this isn't proof of a breeze on a movie set. It's actually undeniable proof of a true vacuum.
Oh, and here's another famous visual anomaly, the infamous C rock. It's a photo showing a lunar rock with a perfectly typed letter C on it, which led a lot of people to believe it was just a mislaid studio prop marker. But the source's forensic audit dismisses this pretty quickly. When you analyze the original film through modern forensic imaging, it confirms that the C is merely an artifact of analog film lint. Basically, it's just a tiny stray hair or a piece of dust that got stuck on the photo print during the development process. It's definitely not a physical letter painted on the rock itself.
Moving on to section 2, linear perspective and shadows.
So here is the visual argument skeptics present. When you look at certain Apollo photographs, the shadows cast by the astronauts and the lunar module, well, they point in completely different, intersecting directions. On a sunny day on Earth, shadows cast by a single distant light source, like the sun, run perfectly parallel. So skeptics ask, why do the lunar shadows diverge? Doesn't this pretty much prove they were lit by close-range, artificial studio floodlights? Actually, the answer lies not in lighting, but in geometry, specifically linear perspective. You have to remember, the moon's surface is not some flat, smooth studio floor. It is a highly uneven topography made up of craters, rolling hills, and sloping valleys. The laws of linear perspective dictate that when you project parallel sunlight onto a 3D, uneven sloping landscape, those shadows literally must visually diverge from the camera's perspective. It's just a law of perspective, not a lighting error, and it actually proves the environment is an authentic, sloped landscape.
All right, section 3, the radiation question. Let's look at the unseen hazards.
Skeptics frequently argued that the astronauts could never have survived the Van Allen radiation belts that surround the Earth. To address this, the source introduces a concept coined by the geologist as the dose-rate fallacy. He notes that radiation isn't a solid wall, it's an environment. And this just brilliantly reframes how we have to analyze the situation. You don't just crash into radiation and instantly perish. Your exposure is entirely dependent on two things: time and speed.
Let's look at the numbers here. The Apollo spacecraft was traveling at an immense velocity, roughly 25,000 miles per hour. Because of this sheer speed, their transit time through the Van Allen belt was measured in mere minutes. So, when you actually calculate the math on that, the dosage equivalent they absorbed was roughly the same as getting 2 medical CT scans. Seriously. It was a minimal, highly survivable dose simply because they punched right through it so fast.
Next up, Section 4, the Lunar Module Crater. Pose this logical mystery to yourself. The lunar module was equipped with a massive 10,000-pound thrust engine to slow its descent. Yet, if you look at the photographs, the module is sitting gently on pretty undisturbed soil. So why didn't an engine with that much raw power blast a massive gaping crater into the lunar surface? If it were a real ship landing, surely it would leave a huge physical footprint, right?
Well, once again, we have to look at how physics changes in a vacuum. Down on Earth, atmospheric pressure forces rocket exhaust to stay in a tight, concentrated downward column. And yes, that would indeed blast a massive hole in the ground. But in a vacuum, with absolutely no atmospheric pressure to contain it, the exhaust from the thruster expands rapidly and laterally, basically sideways, the split second it leaves the nozzle. Because the energy disperses so widely, the actual downward pressure hitting the ground was totally negligible. The physics perfectly predicts exactly what we see in the photos. Just a thin layer of surface dust blown away, leaving the ship perched safely on the solid bedrock below.
And finally, Section 5, the smoking gun data.
So, the crucial point is this piece of technology right here, retroreflectors. These are highly specialized mirrors that the Apollo astronauts physically placed on the lunar surface. Their purpose? To bounce lasers back to Earth. Now think about this. For over 50 years, global observatories, and we're talking including those in nations who would have loved nothing more than to expose an American hoax, have been actively firing lasers into space and bouncing them off these exact mirrors to measure the distance to the moon. You simply cannot bounce a laser off a movie set in Nevada. Let's summarize this undeniable physical proof from our source. 1. The functional retroreflectors we literally just discussed. 2. The lunar regolith, that's the soil brought back, which under a microscope shows jagged, completely unweathered edges. You see, on Earth, wind and water smooth out the edges of sand and rock. Jagged regolith like this can only form in a true, weatherless vacuum. And 3, the geological formations studied by experts are fundamentally impossible to replicate in Earth's atmosphere.
We've reached the end of our audit, and I really want to leave you with this final thought. Knowing the physics, are you ready to trade the comfort of a conspiracy for the staggering reality of an alien environment? The source material makes a really compelling case that when you remove all the rumors and strictly audit the vacuum mechanics, the evidence points to a monumental human achievement. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep analyzing the facts, keep trusting the structured data, and as always, stay curious.
Subscribe and follow us here at the Curiously Expert Series podcast for more forensic audits, and we look forward to sharing more deep dives with you soon.